3 in the last few weeks. This text it helps us to understand things in a way that perhaps we have not understood before. So Philippians chapter 3, verses 4 to 14. Let's read along and see what we can glean from that text today. Paul writes, though I myself, we're picking up, by the way, in the middle of the sentence here. That's why the ellipsis at the beginning of this text. Though I myself have reason for confidence in the flesh also. If anyone else thinks he has reason for confidence in the flesh, I have more. Circumcised on the 8th day of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, as to the law, a Pharisee, as to zeal, a persecutor of the church, as to righteousness under the law, blameless. But whatever gain I had, I counted as loss for the sake of Christ. Indeed, I count everything as loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord. For his sake I have suffered the loss of all things, and I count them as rubbish, in order that I might gain Christ and be found in him, not having a righteousness of my own that comes from the law, but that which comes through faith in Christ. The righteousness from God that depends on faith, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection, and may share his sufferings, and becoming like him in his death, that by any means possible I may attain the resurrection from the dead. Not that I have already obtained it, or am already perfect, but I press on to make it my own, because Christ Jesus has made me his own. Brothers, I do not consider that I have made it my own, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Let's pray together. Lord God, we are grateful for your word and the promise that is ours because of your revealing yourself through Christ and through your word. And I thank you for men like Paul who wrote down this message clearly inspired by you to bring truth into our lives today. And I pray that as we reflect together for these moments on this word, that it would permeate our hearts, that it would transform our minds and our spirits, and we would be moved to greater Christ-likeness ourselves. Help us, God, to understand the economy of the faith and how it is in direct opposition to the things that this world values. Help us, God, to hear from you today and to become increasingly like Jesus Christ as we go forward from here. That we would share the word of hope and share the transforming truth of the gospel in our own midst and in the world that we live in on a day-by-day basis. That Christ is glorified in all that we say and do as we offer this prayer in his name. Amen. Thinking of gains and losses, if you picture a balance sheet, you think about some of the profits and losses that are present in our world. Success might be defined as doing the very best with what we have. Taking what little we have and investing it wisely, using it properly, and making the most of it. That's kind of the goal. That's why people have financial advisors and legal people to help them make those kind of decisions. That's why you kind of monitor your retirement portfolio. You have one. You kind of look and see where it's invested and how it's playing out. Because at the end of your life, or near the end of your life, as you're nearing your golden years, I don't know. I've heard people argue about whether it's really accurately considered golden years, but nonetheless, as you near retirement age, you begin to be more concerned about how your investments are behaving because you're going to have to live on this. money for a while. Anyway, success might be defined as taking what you have and investing it wisely and allowing it to maximize the profit, as it were, so you can do the very best with what you have. That's what success looks like in the eyes of the world, in sort of the grand overarching theme of our lives. The world defines success in a lot of ways. It measures success in a lot of ways on a sort of short-term basis as well. It's not just how you're doing at the end of your life financially, it's how you do throughout your life that matters. And so the world quantifies success in life with things like medals and trophies and titles and material gain and wealth building and power and all of these things. Political acumen, fill in the blank. There's a lot of things that the world uses to define success. And we tend to encourage that way of thinking to some degree, and we do that with the smallest of children, and we encourage them to compete well and to make the most of themselves athletically or academically or in career or whatever, and that's kind of the model that we follow in our world, and it becomes competitive, does it not? It becomes an opportunity for us to breed into that dog-eat-dog mentality that's part of the world. And that's maybe not the best approach, because a person can have all of those things perfectly in place and still not be successful in the eternal sense. That's what we need to understand this morning. That's the very point that Paul is making in this section, Philippians 3. Paul is sort of delineating his pedigree, as it were, and he says he's not doing this in an arrogant way. In actuality, he's being very humble when he does this. He said, if we wanted to compare pedigrees, I could go up against any of them, and I would have plenty of reasons to be proud. Paul was a Pharisee. He was the cream of the crop. He was the top dog in terms of his religious training and his understanding. He was respected, admired, feared even by some. Paul was, as he said, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews. He had the bloodline. He had the power. He had the knowledge. He had the insight. He was zealous. Zeal is not a bad thing when applied to the faith. And Paul was zealous. He said, nobody else had more zeal than me. I was so zealous that I sought to bring about the death of those who were going against what he believed at that time to be the truth. And until he met Jesus on the Damascus Road and had a complete transformation in his mind and his spirit and in the direction of his life. But Paul is saying, and we understand, a person can have all of those things. You can have the respect and admiration of people for your accomplishments or your power or your wealth or your beauty or any of the other things that you might quantify. And you can be successful in all those things, but still be lacking the eternal things that are necessary, a relationship with Jesus Christ. Because Paul is saying, I have all of that, but it's completely worthless in the eternal sense. Because now I've got Jesus. That's what Paul is saying. And so it's not an arrogant thing. He's saying, I thought I was set, but now I know that I was completely lost. Now I am set. Now I have Jesus. All that other stuff I count as rubbish because of the surpassing worth of Jesus Christ and having that relationship with Him. That's what we need to understand. Now that, we can probably end the sermon right there. We can only better than that. Paul, again, was most successful from a worldly standpoint before meeting Jesus. He He had the power and the pedigree and the respect and the money and the prestige. He had all of those things prior to meeting Jesus. And then he met Jesus on the road to Damascus and was struck blind for several days, laid up in a room in a guest house until Ananias came and ministered to him. And during that brief period of time, Paul had a complete transformation. In fact, I would argue that his transformation took place almost entirely on the road to Damascus, when he fell to his knees, and he went from being basically the Lord of his own life to falling before Christ, and he heard the voice and he saw the light, and nobody else saw or heard anything, which is interesting. But Paul's response was, "Who are you, Lord?" He went from being the Lord of his own life within a matter of seconds to acknowledging that Jesus Christ was the Lord of his life. But he was most successful, keep that in mind, from a worldly standpoint prior to Jesus. Once he met Jesus, he spent the vast majority of his time walking around the countryside, starting churches, encouraging people to develop a relationship with Jesus Christ, and a great deal of time when he had nothing better to do, he would write letters because he was in a jail cell. So he went from being the cream of the crop to being a complete social outcast in terms of societal standards, but he spent that time passionately pursuing his own relationship with Jesus Christ. And he said, "I once was successful from a worldly standpoint, but that is all, again, rubbish, garbage, because of the value of Jesus Christ." Now, Paul understood that success was defined only by knowing Jesus Christ. So, when someone tells you that they are a success, or when someone encourages you to pursue success, how do you define that? Well, usually we do. We think about career. We think about, money. We think about measuring our outcome of our life in the way that many people do. The old mantra, "He who dies with the most toys wins," right? That's sort of the mentality of the world. It ain't your stuff, though, that's going to save you. It's not your power that's going to bring you into a right relationship with the God of creation. It's not your GPA or your number of trophies on your trophy case or the number of things you've got stowed away in your basement or whatever. It's knowing Jesus Christ, Paul says, that matters more than anything else. You just need to understand that. I know it sounds like I'm, overemphasizing this. That I may know him and the power of his resurrection, and may share in his sufferings, even Paul said, becoming like him in his death, that by any means possible I may attain the resurrection of the dead. Not that I've already attained this, not that I'm already perfect, but I press on to make it my own, because Christ Jesus has made me his own. That's success. You didn't make yourself his own. He made you his own. Before you loved him, he loved you. Before you were turning an eye toward him, he had his eye on you. And he chose you to invite you into a relationship with him and to make it possible for you to know him. That is success. Knowing that truth about Jesus Christ is what gives our life meaning. It is what gives our eternity significance. Without that, we've got nothing. Without that, this is all we've got. And in the eternal sense, this isn't much. But with Jesus, it's everything. Paul points out, though, that the journey is never over. That's where he said that. Not that I've already obtained it. A lot of people look at Paul and say, "Paul, look, you've started churches, you've taught, you've written letters, you've discipled, you've done all these things. It's wonderful. And Paul never, I believe, and again, this is not, Paul didn't write this out, but I think the spirit of this is in all of Paul's letters. Paul said, I believe, to himself, and probably in some of those private conversations that were not recorded in Scripture. I believe Paul went through his life thinking, I've got a lot of work to do to undo all the damage I did to the cause of Christ initially. I believe that was sort of Paul's mentality. And again, he didn't write that down, but I think Paul said it's never over. Until we are done with this body, until we have died to this world, we are still on mission. We are still trying to push on, to strive, to honor Christ and to make Him known to everyone that we come in contact with. It's never over. So it really comes down to a balance sheet. Again, think about the debits and credits in your life. What does the world say, and what does Scripture say? Well, again, we value different things than the world does if we're doing it right. Sometimes we fall prey, don't we, to the temptations to look at what the world says is important. I mean, we watch TV, we see the same commercials, we hear the same, we see the same advertisements pop up in our news feed. We get the same impression pushed toward us, even if it doesn't take root in our heart. Sometimes it does. But we should, if we're doing it right, value things differently than the world does. Love of the kingdom of God rather than love of self or of things. Honestly, how are you doing? I can't answer that for you. I can answer it for myself, and if I'm honest, I don't like the answer sometimes that I have to give. Do I place a higher value on the kingdom of God rather than on the love of self or of things? Well, on the surface, we would also, well, of course, I place a higher value on the kingdom of God than I do on love of self. But in our quietest, loneliest moments, when we're by ourselves, when we're isolated from the world, do we really, or do we at times place too much emphasis on me, my, and I, what I want, what I think I am, or do I think about the kingdom of God first? Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. Then these things are added to us. We should love the kingdom of God above all else. And so when things of this world come up, and oh my goodness, do we see the temptation arise to cave into the societal pressures, the things that are popular these days, or trendy these days, or respected these days, or admired these days, those things that are lifted up as virtues in our culture that are in direct opposition to the teaching of the Word. Do we cave, or do we say, no, I owe my allegiance to a higher authority? I think of Peter and John preaching in the book of Acts and pulled in before the council and said, boys, okay, I'm paraphrasing here. He said, boys, you better cool it, or we're going to have to reprimand you a little more severely. Could have even been a death sentence. And Peter and John didn't come up with the response on their own. It only came from the Holy Spirit, and they said, okay, you can do whatever you want to us, because we're not what matters most. Again, I'm paraphrasing. And he said, well, whether it's right to listen to you, or whether it's right to listen to the God of all creation who gave us this mission, I'll leave that to you to decide, fellas. That's kind of the response they gave. And he said, we're going to We're going to do what God wants us to do instead. And then they went on preaching. Do we really do that? Are we willing to put aside what society is willing to give us if we will compromise our faith? Or are we willing to say, you know what, it's the kingdom first. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and then all the things will rightly fall into place. And you may not be rich and famous and pretty now, because look at this. And, you get what you get. But at the end of the day, the eternal stuff matters. Love of the kingdom is far superior to love of self or things on the balance sheet of the Christian faith. Love of the future reward rather than clinging to the past. We don't like that in Baptist churches, though. We like to do things, come on, say it with me, the way we've always done it. You got it. That's the way we hang on to the past. We hang on to traditions. We hang on to, well, that's how my great-great-great-great-grandpa did it when they planted this church on the field. And that's the way we have to do it today. Not necessarily. Honestly, you know what the first century... No, I'm not advocating for throwing everything out, okay? But I'm advocating for letting the Spirit of God move in our midst, in the direction that He would want to move us. Because it's all about getting as many people on board so they can be part of the kingdom of God and gain that future reward rather than clinging to what was always comfortable for us. This fledgling Christian movement that we read about in the New Testament is not the same old thing. It's not the way it always was. It's a new thing. It's the Spirit of God moving in new ways to move His people into a deeper, more intimate, more connected relationship with Himself. It's like that telescope that I mentioned, bringing God up very close. And it's a new thing. Or a love of what God is doing in your life as an individual rather than hanging on to old patterns of behavior that you know were counterproductive. So it's both and. It's calling us out of our former life and calling us collectively into obedience and following God wherever it is that He leads. It's love of ministry rather than love of our own time. Let me tell you, that's hard to do sometimes, is it not? I mean, sometimes you just want to shut down. Confession time. And as a pastor, I get bogged down sometimes with the doing of ministry. And it's hard for me to shut down, and sometimes I feel selfish because I do want to shut down and retreat. And I think there's value in doing that. But the temptation is to say, you know what, I need to not have my own time as much as I do. And it's a balance. Like this last week, I didn't get much of my own time, okay? But there are a lot of weeks where it's easy to say, you know what, spend some time in reflection and study, and make it sound all perfectly holy and righteous, and maybe it's not. But I think we all do that. We all say, I'm going to take care of myself, because culture says, take care of number one, right? Take care of yourself. If you're not good for you, you're not good for anybody else. That was Billy Joel that said that. But, that's the mentality of the world. Honestly, what we need to do is to say, again, what can I do to expand the reach of the kingdom? What can I do to share the love of Jesus with other people? What can I do to find a place of ministry, not just the professional pastor, but all of us as ministers of the gospel? What can we do to engage in the practice of ministry to make the world a better place and to draw people into a deeper relationship with Christ and not worry so much about having our me time? Because me time can quickly devolve into just wasting time. You know, maybe you got a game on your phone or your tablet or whatever that you want to play or spend more time in. Maybe you got something that sucks you in and becomes more of a time waster. And, so it becomes. I'm doing this for recreation, to be sort of recreated, which is not necessarily a bad thing, and it becomes a millstone around your neck, and it drags you down, and all of a sudden you're wasting time that could be used for ministry. So love of ministry, love of sharing that word of hope, because of the eternally significant quality of it, rather than just taking care of yourself. And finally, reliance on God's provision rather than our own brilliance. Oh, I know that works. When you don't have much brilliance, you're utterly dependent on Christ. In fact, Scripture tells us God chose the meek and lowly things in this world to confound the wise. That's who He chooses to use. And so when you realize the proper perspective, you realize just who you are before God, before the creator and sustainer of the universe, and it puts you in a different position in life where you are dependent upon His provision rather than your own brilliance. Again, people all the time are saying things like, well, I don't know about, witnessing. I don't know about sharing my faith. I don't know about doing this. I don't know about engaging in that ministry in the church. I don't know if I have what it takes. Well, you're right. You don't. You don't have what it takes to do any of that. None of us do. I certainly don't have what it takes to be the pastor of a church. I don't have what it takes to lead people to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. I know many of you have heard me say this before. But don't worry, He won't give you more than you can handle. Oh, yes, He will. I guarantee you He'll give you more than you can handle. And if you look at the mountain of stuff that He's going to give you to do, you could be overwhelmed by it. Or you can look at that in your own strength and think, I'm done. Or you can look at that and say, God, I don't know how you expect this to work, but I'm going to trust you to provide what's needed every step of the way. He won't give you more than He can handle. He won't give you more than He can handle in partnership with you, but He will give you way more than you can handle. He can give us as a church more than we can handle, financially or with HR, or with insight or wisdom or brilliance or influence in the community. He most certainly will give us more than we can handle as a church. Because if we're doing what we can do in our own strength, it's not God's will for us. But if He gives us a God-sized vision, and He did, if He gives us a God-sized vision, He's going to give us the resources to pull that off. If He gives us an enthusiasm to do some kind of ministry in our community, something we haven't even begun to envision yet, He will give us most certainly everything that we need to pull that off. So again, if we see something and we decide as a church, we've got a business meeting next Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. And who knows, there may even be some ideas for ministry brought up. But if He gives us something at that meeting, and we are thinking, yep, we can do that, then we need to aim higher. If He gives you something individually and sets it before you, and you think, well, I can do that. I can help with that. Aim higher. Raise the bar. Because that's not forcing you to rely on God. If He gives you something in your heart and you just feel like, maybe, I don't know, but I don't see how that could work, that's your call right there. That's the sweet spot. Because it helps you to realize, I don't know, I think it's exciting, but it's scary. Bingo. That's where He wants to. for 24 years or so, pastoral ministry, that's exactly where I live my life. When I've been doing it right. There have been moments where I've gotten real comfortable. And I thought, okay, I got this. And that's when it all starts crumbling apart. But as soon as I think that's something I can aim for, but I don't know how I pull that off, that's when I've been most fulfilled in ministry. And then it's disciple, it's the economy of God at work. Find that place. That by any means possible, you too, along with Paul, might find a resurrection from the dead. That by any means possible, you too might share that hope with the world around you. That by any means possible, you would reveal the truth of the gospel to a world so desperately needed. The hope that cannot come from the things of this world, but can only come when the balance sheet of our faith is rightly aligned with God's desire for us. That's how to measure the gains and losses in your life. You're going to have some losses by the world's standards, but those become gains in the kingdom of God. Let's pray. God, we do thank you for the truth of this word and the challenge that it sets before us and the hope that can be ours, not because of our own brilliance or insight, but because of the great love of God who cares enough about us to take on flesh and bone, to become one of us, to reveal himself to us so that we can have a relationship with you by your own shed blood, not because of our brilliance or value or worth as individuals, but because of the surpassing value of Jesus Christ and of him crucified who purchased our salvation. God, I pray that each of us is moved to that place of obedience today, where we follow you no matter the cost personally, and seek the kingdom above all else. And I pray for each one here today, that today would be the day that decisions are made, that eternities are redirected, and some of us that have become complacent would be brought back into a place of pure focus as to what your desire is for us. As we offer this prayer in Jesus' name.